That being said, yo, now Disney and specifically Pixar, whenever they create a new movie, they're usually trying to come up with new ideas, original ideas, ideas to turn into big movies. DreamWorks takes a little bit of a different route. I mean, while they have created a few original franchises, such as two of their biggest sellers, Madagascar and Kung Fu Panda, quite a lot of their work is also based on existing properties, making those into movies. For example, Shrek was originally a short children's book. Uh, Over the Hedge was a little known comic strip, and the How to Train Your Dragon franchise was based very loosely on the book series by Cressida Cowell. Anyway, in the last few months, DreamWorks has released their next big picture, Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. This was based on the book series by Dav Pilkey, a series of 12 children's books published from 1997 until 2015. And I'll be honest with you, I read these a lot. I mean, just to give you a bit of background, I was introduced to the books as a whole back in kind of around year 3, so that would have been about 12 years ago. Back around 2005-ish. Yeah. I was introduced to the books around this time, by which time there were about 7 books. Introduced to them by my year 3 teacher, and to be honest, I called these up like candy. I mean, I actively kind of sought them out, and I read every single one. Because, kind of, for I imagine it would be a 7 or an 8-year-old at the time, they were fun. I mean, unlike something like the Harry Potter series, where you kind of immerse yourself into it and try and imagine yourself actually there, the Captain Underpants books, I never thought you were supposed to take that seriously, but they were fun to read, and you weren't supposed to take them that seriously. I mean, it's a guy. I mean, just look at the villains. You've got a guy in a nappy threatening to blow up the moon, talking toilets that are attempting to eat everyone they come across, aliens, a guy trying to make everyone in town change their name, a woman who has hair that could give you a wedgie, and even robots covered in mucus. It's not supposed to be taken that seriously, but to be honest, I found them fun growing up. I mean, kind of from the time I was in primary school, there were about 7 books in the series. Then the 8th one came out. I was eventually bought it. I read it through. I loved it. Then, kind of when I got to high school, I started to grow up and just I recognised that these books kind of I left them behind. I grew up a bit. I ended up reading a lot more adult stuff, such as I said, Harry Potter, a series of unfortunate events, and later on got stuff like the greatest book I ever read, A Thousand Splendid Suns. But while I did grow out of them, I remained curious about the Captain Underpants series. That I read books 1 through 8, and then when I saw books 9 and 10 kind of on sale at my supermarket, I did buy them. Not really out of because I enjoyed the series, but more out of kind of curiosity, as from about book 6 onwards, they had stopped doing what they had done with books 1 through 5, which is kind of always end on the same note of the main character turning back into the superhero that he was, and kind of gave us a cliffhanger to keep us going for the next book, which, I was interested to see how they'd turn out. When the final 2 books came out, I didn't purchase them. By that point, I'd just grown up and thought, no, not anymore. But I remain curious enough about the series that when the books did come out, I did look them up on Wikipedia just to see how the series has ultimately ended. I mean, I remember flicking through kind of briefly the pages of number 11, but I didn't buy it. But, as I said, unlike other book series where you could fully immerse yourself in there, I don't think that these were meant to be taken that seriously. These were just fun. Fun books, and while I didn't go and see the movie, I've seen enough of the clips on YouTube that I've practically seen it, and you know what, the movie kind of looks like it's an amalgamation, taking some of the best parts from books 1 through 4 and mashing them together into a movie. And you know what? It's done pretty well. I mean, yeah, it does take a few changes from the books, but you know what? It looked still, it embodied what the Captain Underpants series always did. It looked fun. It was kind of fun, visually interesting, and it was just fun to see what they could do with such a simple premise. Now, you might think, okay, you got older, you grew up, Captain Underpants would have stayed kind of in the back of your memory, it would have been dead and forgotten, right? Well, I thought that at the time, but then looking back, it's surprising how much the series actually managed to affect my life. I mean, okay, I know that Captain Underpants only kind of emerged in the late 90s, but in the end, the kind of stories got me into a love for comic books. So much so that from last year I actually started collecting them. I mean, the boys ones are a little bit, kind of, in the books are a little bit scruffy, but you know what, they got me interested in comic books. So much so that I started collecting them and ultimately started creating ones of my own, which I'll leave a link down below. Once again, if you want to go look through some of my previous works. I haven't edited them in a while, but yeah, give me pleasure. So, yeah, it it was it was a small kind of book series meant for kind of younger children, but it was ultimately fun to read. I mean, I didn't personally. It's apparently been the series has been banned in schools across America for encouraging children to disobey authority. But to be honest, I didn't get that watching the series. I didn't feel the need to disobey authority. To be honest, I was just having fun reading a book about a seemingly weird, mostly naked superhero. And you know what? That was okay. I eventually abandoned the series and went on to read other books, but yeah, they got me interested in reading. You know, they got me that far. They were kind of the gateway. I would go on to read much greater stuff, but that was the gateway for me, reading something kind of silly and humorous that ultimately led on to greater things. So, in the end, I think the Captain Underpants series of books, it's one of those things that we can't, when we think back, we think, blimey, I wasted a lot of my childhood reading these things, but we're ultimately better for it. It got us into reading and was the gateway to much greater things. That's all there really is to say. I mean, the movie seems fun, the books were fun, and was just ultimately a fun franchise. There's nothing really more to say about it. Anyway, I'll see ya.